Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. Guys, it's been a week since we were last here on this show. We took a mental health break, much needed, but we're glad to be back because today is a very special day. Today marks the second annual March Madness special here on Red Wolf Roundtable. Now, this year we don't have Easton John or Gavin Grubbs as our guest pickers. Shout out Gavin Grubbs. He actually won the whole thing amongst the four of us last year. But this year, we got two people that's very near and dear to my heart. Of course, you already know who your other host is, Cooper Motor. But to my left, we got your news desk correspondent, Ella Jane Britt. And to Cooper's right, you got the man, the myth, the legend, the man behind the camera, James Lowry. I'll start with you, James. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good. I appreciate you and Cooper for having me, and I'm excited to get to see and let's talk about these brackets and these matchups. So let's get it rolling, man. I'm excited.
Juicebox, how you feeling today?
You know how I'm feeling. I'm always doing good.
You feeling juicy?
Yes.
I got it. Ella Jane, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's definitely different from being at the news desk to being here. So
Right. So as I mentioned, today marks the March Madness special, the second annual. And guys, before we dive into everybody's brackets and what region they chose and who they had winning that region, I want to ask, what's kind of some of the favorite moments you have when thinking about March Madness? Jane, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Give you the speaking ball.
So for me, my favorite one is really, I just really honestly just thought about it. When UALR, Chris Beard, when they beat Purdue, and that was a big win for them. And they even went on to almost beat North Carolina that year. So that was a big NCAA moment for me growing up watching this tournament that I so love to watch.
Right. Juicebox, what about you? What do you think? What's your favorite March Madness moment?
With March Madness, there's so many games you can choose from, so many upsets. And I'm, like March Madness, big underdog guy, so it had to be when Loyola Chicago did their Cinderella story run a couple years ago with Sister Jean. I mean, it was magical. You had them beating Miami, couple buzzer beaters, made it all that way. I was hoping they could win it all, but they came up short, but it was a great time watching them play. Tristan, what's your favorite March Madness moment?
Well, thank you so much, Juicebox, for asking. My favorite March Madness moment is one that I talk about very frequently, and that's back when Mario Chalmers hit the game-tying shot to send the game against Memphis into OT.
D-Rose.
D-Rose. He hit over three Memphis Tiger players. One was D-Rose, and then Kansas ended up winning the national championship. But thanks to that shot, forever etched in history is the Mario Chalmers legend. The Kansas Jayhawks. They're a true blue blood inside of NCAA basketball. So that's always been one of my favorite moments. I mean, there's tons you can think of. I mean, you got Taco Fall playing Zion Williams. You got multiple upsets inside the bracket. You got buzzer beaters, big-time plays, big-time dunks, big-time three-pointers. But my biggest one, my favorite one, has got to be the Mario Chalmers buzzer beater to tie the game and send it to overtime. Ella Jane, what was yours?
mine has to be when Villanova hit the game-winning three. I mean, I can only imagine what it would have been like to be in that arena and seeing what was all going on at that point.
Right. So, guys, I mean, we got our own bracket challenge for you guys that want to play along with us. I mean, Ella Jane, myself, Cooper, James, and our crew, we've all joined the bracket. Now we want you to join it. Go ahead and you can go on ESPN.com, look for the Men's Tournament Challenge, search the group RWRT-ASU-TV, and the winner gets bragging rights over the one and only Mr. Sullivan for an entire year. Wow. Now, it's not as good as getting free tuition like Juicebox did at the last basketball game, but you know what? Anytime you can brag over Mr. Sullivan and just give him a little bit more to kind of make his day a little bit harder, that's always fun.
Oh, for sure. When thinking about bragging rights, I'm a sore loser, so I want to be able to brag.
Right. Well, guys, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the first bracket, the Midwest. You're going to find out who picked that one and more.
Arkansas
Coming
State,
back after this.
We want you to go. Go where learning soars, takes flight, and rockets ahead. Go for experiences, internships, and scholarships. We want you to go. Become A-State Maine. Are you ready to go? Go.astate.edu for details.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to West Side football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, West Side Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
ASU-TV News, your local source for news, weather, A-State events, and more. Tune in to ASU-TV News now.
Here on ASU TV Live, and now we're going to go ahead and move into our brackets. Who picked what and what regions everybody picked. So the first one up, the Midwest bracket. Now, who may have picked that one? I wonder. Ooh.
It was me.
It was Ellie.
No surprise.
Yeah.
So, I think we could go ahead and start. I honestly love Iowa, no matter what. I think they have had a good run. But I also have Miami because Norchad's out right now, but I definitely most think he will be in. So they have a very heavy guard lineup, and I'm really liking that because offense scores points, but your defense wins games. I've wholeheartedly believed in that for my whole life.
Right. So let's go ahead and see your full bracket and see who you had going over who, and just see if you had any potential upsets inside your region that may just spark a little bit of controversy amongst the four of us. I mean, you got it on screen now. You got Houston, they've been the #1 team in the nation for a long time. You got Iowa losing to Auburn, big possible upset there. Miami over Drake. I mean, we're all kind of in agreement there for Norchad. Indiana versus Kent State, that's a no-brainer. Iowa State moving on, that's again a no-brainer. Xavier versus Kennesaw State, again, no-brainer. Texas A&M, beats Penn State, no really shock there. And Texas versus Colgate. Now that's a matchup I want to highlight real quick with you, Ellie, because we've been talking amongst the weeks in comparison for this show, and we've all kind of been, at least Cooper and I have been in agreement in that Colgate's the best three-point shooting team in the country. So what made you think that the Big 12 champion Texas Longhorns has what it takes to survive the upset against Colgate?
I definitely think that Colgate is a good shooting team, but I think Texas can come back and show their defense with that. And I think that's really going to just prove what could happen and when it could happen. Just being able to say, like I said earlier, offense scores points, but your defense wins games. It's what you do on the defensive side of the ball that is going to put you further. And then men's. So I always think if you finish first, you're going to have to finish last. You cannot give out early. You're going to have to play the full time and just give it your all the entire time, especially because you are in this postseason and you're catching things like that. You have to focus on every single point of the game. It's not just, we have to shoot better. You have to think in all different aspects of the game. What are we going to do to get to the next step?
Right, and looking at your bracket, you actually had Texas A&M as a team that beat. You had Texas A&M beating Texas. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, that's a rivalry renewed, and you actually had A&M going over. I like that pick a lot, but moving on further down the line in your bracket, you had Houston versus Miami, then Iowa State versus A&M. You had Miami beating the #1 team in the country. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I mean, Houston's a great team, but what makes you think that Miami has what it takes to beat Houston if they don't have Norchad?
I mean, they have a heavy guard lineup, like I said, and they're really good at attacking the boards. And if they did have Norchad, I think that would really help because coming from Arkansas State, he was really big on trying to rebound, just making sure he used his height in the best way he could. So.
Right, and looking at the rest of the bracket, I mean, you're very, very heavily favored to Miami. Is it just the Norchad comparison, or is there something else with the Hurricane that you like when you're studying this team?
Well, I really, like I said earlier, attacking the boards, I think it plays a big role. And so just doing things like that. And, I mean, Norchad was at Arkansas State, so.
Right.
Because they have 4 players who average over 13 points a game. Yeah. So when you have that type of scoring on your team, along with that height, that depth that Miami has, they're going to be tough to beat. Yeah. Like, that team is just good.
It's rough when you play an all-around big team.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really rough, and I can say that from my time in playing. I mean, I was a tall post, but I was not the tallest post on a short team. So if you use your height to your advantage, you're going to get somewhere.
And in my opinion, Houston is the weakest one-seeded out there. I feel like when looking at all the one seeds, you have Bama, Kansas, and then you get to Houston. I don't know. They're not at Purdue. They're not at Kansas. They're not at Alabama. I honestly think Houston is the most overrated team, and I could see Auburn or Iowa knocking them off that early if they make it that far, because me and Tristan talked, they almost got beat by Memphis pretty bad.
They did get beat Memphis.
They got beat by Memphis, and then Memphis almost beat them again. Just couldn't get it done.
Right, and I like that you brought that up because, like you were saying, that's one of the things we talked about. Because in the American Conference, Houston, they're moving to the Big 12 soon. But it really attests to show that to further prove your statement of Houston being the weakest number 1 seed that we've seen versus previous years, is you got this team. Okay, let me put this in perspective. You got this team that's been number 1 for a while, but you got a team other than Houston, like in Alabama, that's been shooting lights out. Darius Miles, he's been a shooter all year long. So when you got these teams, they're battling back and forth. Who's going to get the number 1 overall seed? Who's going to be the number 1 seed in this bracket, that bracket, or the other bracket? You got to look at it this way. Houston has had trouble beating teams that they should have blown out by 20. You brought up the Memphis one, and I want to piggyback off it. When they played in Memphis, I want to say about 2 to 3 weeks ago, they were at a point of the game where, honestly, it was a lucky shot that won them that ball game. Any other referee that's paying attention, I'm sorry, they're going to call that a push-off, and it's going to be a turnover, and Memphis is going to walk away with that W.
Yeah, Houston, they've really been riding off of their hype train they had in their tournament success last year, and I feel like with them, no offense to the AAC, it's an easier conference than what Purdue has to play in, what Kansas has to play in. Houston, when they've played actual good teams, they have lost those games. They haven't really came up when they needed to. They also got killed by teams they shouldn't have.
Right, and another game I want to point out is the Penn State A&M game. Penn State, they almost beat Purdue in their conference title.
Penn State and A&M, people are saying whoever wins that game, Texas needs to be on the lookout for, because Texas A&M was the 2 seed in the SEC tournament.
Right, I mean, this part of the bracket is always the one that gets tossed up between others for which one's the toughest over the years. I mean, you got the Midwest, like Ella Jane's pick. I mean, she's got some good picks, don't get me wrong. But the number 1 question I have with these picks is are we going to see Norchad play? We're all in agreement that Norchad is a great player.
If Norchad plays, I really do feel like Miami can run the table.
Yeah, they can run that table without regard. There's no question. Like, when you have 4 players who's scoring 13 points a game, and then I've seen their depth at their guard position. They're long. They're well coached with Jim Larinaga as their coach, longtime coach. He's just a great all-around Miami Hurricane team.
Right, and Ellie, real quick, I want to ask you, just looking at this bracket, who could be your sleeper team coming out of this bracket?
I definitely think I've seen Kent State play recently, so I think they could, but it's a very low chance. And I mean, kind of going back to what Cooper said, Houston, I think they have a bigger head. I mean, they've been in the Final Four and the Elite Eight for the past 2 years, so I think that gave them in sorts of bragging rights. I think they need to just go back to the baseboards and say, here's what we need to do. Forget everything you've done in the past. Focus on this season. But I do, kind of going back to Kent State, I think they do have a chance, but it's very slight.
Right. I mean, Ellie, you make a lot of good points, and you got a lot of good picks. I'm not going to knock you for that. This is one of the most well picked out Midwest brackets that I've seen, and I've looked at a lot of them. But I mean, guys, we've got a lot more coming up, and we've got a lot more basketball to talk. I'm excited to see what you guys have in store because I think, the next is the West bracket. It's going to be interesting to see who got that bracket. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't spoil. I can't predict the future. Great, Scott. But one of the biggest things is that you're going to wait to find out until after break. Guys, stick around. You're watching Red Wolf Roundtable. We'll be back after this.
ASU-TV News, your local source for news, weather, A-State events, and more. Tune in to ASU-TV News now.
At Arkansas State, we want you to go. Go where learning soars, takes flight, and rockets ahead. Go for experiences, internships, and scholarships. We want you to go. Become A-State Maine. Are you ready to go? Go.astate.edu for details.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV. Guys, it's time to move on to the West bracket.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a juicy bracket.
I would say so myself. Now, who picked the West?
I wonder who. It was Mr. Juicebox himself.
It was me. I saw the bracket and I was like, I have very good talking points. And obviously, the one seed of the West bracket, the Kansas Jayhawks. So You know what? Let's go ahead and take a peek at what I had. So right here, Kansas versus Howard. I mean, what else do I have to say? Grady Dick and Kansas Jayhawks, they're going to do great. They should have no problem. It's going to be a warm-up game now. I'm going to go to Arkansas, Illinois. These are two teams that can't shoot the free throws and they can't shoot the three ball. They live off of defense, forcing turnovers, and getting to the basket. The only reason Arkansas is moving on is because Illinois is the worst free throw shooting team in the country and the worst three-point shooting team in the country. And Arkansas, they're not much better at any of those, but they're just a little bit better, and I feel like they're a little bit better coached team, and that's why the Hogs are going to move on. And St. Mary's, VCU. St. Mary's, they're in the same conference as Gonzaga. And I honestly think you have St. Mary's and Gonzaga. Those are the only two teams worth the crap in that conference. I mean, everybody else, they're just terrible. They play easy teams all year around. So I feel like VCU, they're coming back. They're going to upset St. Mary's, and VCU is going to be feeling like they did when they upsetted Ole Miss a while back.
Right.
And then UConn, Iona. UConn, they had a great historic basketball school. You know, Kemba Walker, we're talking about it earlier, leading that team, beating Kentucky, winning the national championship, also hitting that crazy game winner. I mean, it's Kemba Walker. He was that dog in college. And then TCU versus ASU, not Arkansas State or Nevada. That game, I do think Arizona State's going to win, and then TCU is going to go on and win that game. TCU, they've shown life this year, and they were really supposed to be that contender team in the Big 12. They didn't pan out to be that team, so that's why I have TCU moving on. They're still a good team. Gonzaga, Grand Canyon, like I said, I think Gonzaga's overrated every year. They're the team that always gets the top 3 seed, you know, all hype train coming for them, and then they don't even make the national championship. It's just they always disappoint. The Northwestern Boise State. Now, this was a toss-up game for me, and when I was looking at it, I was like, you know, Northwestern, they're playing the Big Ten, better conference, they play better competition, but you know what Northwestern doesn't have that Boise State has?
Other than a blue football field?
Boise State has a blue football field, so that's why I'm going with the Broncos. That's the only reason I picked the Broncos, is because it may not be football season, but that blue turf, it's amazing. I mean, come on.
You got a point. You got a point.
So then UCLA versus UNC Asheville. I mean, come on. UCLA, they're a historical basketball program. I mean, they have one of the most college national championships in basketball. And so UCLA and Lonzo Ball, former guy there.
That out of everybody that's went to UCLA, Lonzo Ball.
I love Lonzo Ball. I loved him.
You're forgetting about
Ever since he's
the previous all-time scorer. You're forgetting about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not going to say nothing about Kareem?
I mean,
Lou Alcindor.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. You know what? Hate on Lonzo. Rain on my parade. But then Kansas, Arkansas, it's going to be no competition. Kansas is the way better coach team, better team overall. They're just going to handle their way. Arkansas, they're not a second-half team. They can't hit their free throws. You're not going to win games. If you can't shoot threes, you're not going to win. Basketball, it's a game of shooting threes now and free throws. And Arkansas, they can't do either. Then the Cinderella story is going to come to end when mighty UConn rolls into town. I just feel like the experience and the coaching level is really going to help them win this game, but it's going to be close. It's not going to be a blowout. This game's going to be close if it happens. VCU versus UConn. UConn comes out barely. So then we're looking TCU Gonzaga. I was saying TCU, they didn't have the season they wanted, you know. If we're talking football, we know how their season ended. Thanks for the worst national championship game. But Gonzaga, you're overrated. You get overrated every year. I'm sorry you don't have any good competition in your conference. Maybe leave. That's an idea. But that's why I had the mighty Horned Frogs getting a little revenge, maybe trying to think, well, we were going to win it all this year in basketball. No, you're not. But TCU wins. Then the blue turf comes to the end when they meet UCLA and former alumni Lonzo Ball. I'm just going to keep saying that. They're going to be riding high, and they're going to end up going on. Then Kansas versus UConn. Kansas, they're just too good. They're just such a better team than UConn. UConn, they had a great run. They're going to get beat by Kansas. Then TCU, UCLA, former alumni Lonzo Ball and the UCLA Bruins are going to take this one. And then we have the great matchup of the 1 seed versus 2 seed. Kansas.
They beat Lonzo Ball.
They beat Lonzo Ball. No, but Kansas, like Drake said, we're going back to back.
Yeah, I mean, I like your picks. I really do.
Okay.
And the big one I want to talk about is that Arkansas matchup. Okay. Now, I know a State fan in D.C. is probably watching this show, and he's trembling in his boots because you picked an Arkansas. You picked the Razorbacks to win a ball game. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is the kind of issue it seems like the Razorbacks have been having over the course of the year, not just in conference play, not just towards the tail end of the season, and the big question of Nick Smith Jr. Is Nick Smith Jr. going to be playing in this in the tournament, And to follow up that, how do you think that's going to affect the team chemistry coming in after the season they've had?
Well, Nick Smith, he played during the conference tournament. He came back a couple games before the end of the season, and he played that conference tournament. And what I kept seeing was everybody kept saying, wait till Nick Smith gets back. Wait till he gets back. All right, he's back. You know, you win a game in the conference, and then you blow a 13-point lead you had at halftime to Texas A&M, who Texas A&M, being down by 13 at half, has never won a game until this year, and they erased that lead. Arkansas, if they're going to have any chance to make a run and somehow upset Kansas, they're going to have to hit their threes. I mean, they can't shoot at all. And Nick Smith, he's supposed to be this big guy, but he can't. The chemistry's not there. And I feel like that's the biggest problem Arkansas has is Nick Smith. He was out all season. He's back now. He's a great player. But the chemistry and play style they all have together does not fit well with Nick Smith since he hasn't been here. And that's why Arkansas, I won't be surprised if Arkansas beats round one. I just had them winning because they just shoot a little bit better than Illinois.
Right. And, you know, guys, I mean, Elliot James, you can interrupt me whenever you want to talk more about Cooper's bracket. But looking back at your bracket, you had VCU as your Cinderella story.
Yes.
Which everybody loves the Cinderella story. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I mean, you mentioned a little bit, but real quick, what's the biggest storyline for them in order to achieve that forever known Cinderella run?
Well, they're gonna have to come in, and like when you watch a Cinderella team, they do two things very well: defense and forcing turnovers. I know they collide together, but forcing turnovers and getting second chance points is what you're gonna have to do. And if VCU can do that, they have a chance to win. They're a 12 seed versus 5 seeds. That's where you see your biggest upsets. When Loyola Chicago had that Cinderella story run, they were a 12 seed. So VCU, they have the talent, they have the pieces, but they need to put it together. And if they can just force turnovers and make the easy shots, like if you're open, there's no reason you should be missing. You have to keep going. You have to keep playing hard. And March Madness, it's a game of upsets. Everyone's looking for it. And why not VCU? That's why I have it. But is there any other game that you saw that was like shocker to you? I just want to know y'all's opinion about my bracket.
We're gonna get into that in a second. We gotta step away, take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna recap a little bit more of his, and then we're gonna move on to the the south side of the bracket. I don't know who had it, but stick around. You're watching Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV.
At Arkansas State, we want you to go. Go where learning soars, takes flight, and rockets ahead. Go for experiences, internships, and scholarships. We want you to go. Become A-State Maine. Are you ready to go? Go.astate.edu for details.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
ASU-TV News, your local source for news, weather, A-State events, and more. Tune in to ASU-TV News now.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. And during the break, Ellie had an interesting question for Cooper. Ellie, what was your question?
How strong do you think Coach Muss's shoe game will be for this NCAA tournament?
I think it's going to be real nice. If you haven't seen it, he gets a new.
They're pretty sweet.
He gets new sneakers every game. They're playing in Des Moines, Iowa, so be on the lookout. I'm going to make a prediction. I think he'll have something to do with the cornfield.
Okay.
And you know he's going to have his bottle of Coca-Cola on.
Oh,
Right,
the
right,
Diet Coke, and he's going to be sitting there throwing it.
Right. Well, now that we talked about some shoes, speaking of shoes, Lauren Pendleton, she has the best shoe game around town. But real quick, we're going to go ahead and talk about the South bracket. And James, do you know who had this side of the bracket?
Maybe.
Maybe?
I think it's me.
Oh, it's you? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, take it away with the South.
All right, guys, let's get this thing rolling. So at the top, we have Alabama, and for the play-in game, Southeast Missouri and Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. SEMO is probably going to take that one, I think. But, of course, when they get with the Alabama Roll Tide, Alabama's moving on to the next round. For this next one, this one was a very tough one for me. West Virginia, they've been up and down this year, not the normal West Virginia team that we're used to seeing with Bob Huggins. But I think Maryland is going to take that one because they're just more physical and they're more fundamentally sound. For the next round, San Diego State and Charleston. Honestly, with this Charleston team, I didn't see them, honestly, until the selection Sunday. And once I finished watching, I went and watched some of their highlights and everything. And they are a very well-rounded team. They can shoot the three ball. They can move the ball very well. They can get the ball inside, outside. But this San Diego State team, very physical defensively. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to get in your face. You're going to have to work for every possession down the floor. So I'm taking San Diego State in that one. Virginia and Furman. This one was not really a throw-up for me. Honestly, when I'm looking at records and everything, I'm looking at what type of team you are. So Virginia, for me, they haven't been the same Virginia team that I'm used to seeing from Tony Bennett, but I think they're going to get out of this first round with a win. Creighton and NC State. I'm taking the NC State Wolves in this one because the Wolf Pack.
Sticking with the Wolves here.
We're sticking with the Wolf family on this one. I just like NC State. I watched a couple of their games. Craven Smith, he's averaging 17 points a game. Can shoot. And when he shoots the three ball, he shoots an efficient, and he's shooting it deep. So you have to get in his face. He's the voice for that team. He's the leader. So I'm taking NC State. Baylor, UCSB. Baylor Bears.
Yeah.
National champions 2 years ago. Still got that fire. Still got that grit, that heart that they had from when they won that national championship. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from them this season, so I'm taking Baylor. An SEC foe, Missouri and Utah State. This was kind of a toss-up for me. But Missouri, I always just like their style of play. They play fast. They play physical. They love to get down to the wire on defense. That's what they pride themselves on, and I love a great defensive team. So I'm taking Missouri. And then lastly, we have Arizona and Princeton. I took Arizona, of course, in that one. So for the next round, do y'all like? What do y'all have? What are y'all thoughts on those?
You didn't pick the Princeton Tigers to beat the Wildcats.
For what?
I'm just kidding.
I like all those games. The one I had one upset, and I think that was the 5-12. I had the College of Charleston winning that one. I just felt like, I don't know. I just like that pick. San Diego State's a really good team, though. And
Right.
The other game, I probably had an upset. I think it was it was the Utah State-Missouri game. That was a tough one for me because Utah State, they're not a big school, but they're known for their basketball. They're a big basketball country over there. But I like that Missouri pick. I really do.
Yeah, and looking at this bracket a little bit, Baylor is a great team. I mean, I've seen them play once. It was against Arkansas. That's a good team. But,
Yes.
James, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of your picks and see why you had the mighty Crimson Tide going all the way in this region.
Okay, so just a little bit of background.
Are you that big of a Roll Tide fan, or do you think they're that
I
great?
hate Alabama.
Oh, right.
Or are you trying to get on
But
Dr.
right now,
Rollins'
they are the
side?
best
you
team
know?
in the country right
Hey,
now.
he's trying to get on Dr. Rollins' good side for some scholarships.
Please, I hope you're watching. So Alabama has not made the Elite Eight since 2004. They made the Sweet 16 8 times, including 2021. Right now, they're just the best team. You watched them against Arkansas a couple weeks ago. Out of all the turmoil they've been going through with all of their legal situation going on, Brandon Miller, 19.6 points a game and 8 rebounds, and you also have Noah Clowney averaging 10 points and 8 rebounds. They're just long all around. Like, you have a 6'8", 6'9" guy handling the ball like he is. Like,
That's like LeBron.
you
handling
can't,
the ball.
in college, you're not seeing that like today. You're not seeing that. And with them being a great role team, you have Quinterly at the guard. He's probably the shortest player on the court, but he's playing just as big as the rest of his teammates who's not his height. And I just really like what I'm seeing from Alabama, and I just feel like they have that toughness, and they have found their niche and their chemistry to really make a deep run here in this tournament.
Yeah, and to put this to perspective for people, he's talking about Brandon Miller, who's 6'8", 6'9". Norchad Omier is 6'9". So imagine a guy like Norchad running the ball up court, being able to handle it like a point guard.
Exactly.
And when you're that big and you can handle the ball that well, you're going to be a very good player and a very good team.
It can be intimidating.
Yes,
really-
it's like Magic Johnson being a point guard.
Right, and I mean, I think there's no question that we're all in some sort of agreement, reluctantly or understandably, that honestly, Alabama's the best team in this tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean, they live and die by the three. I feel like
They're shooters.
when they were a 2 seed last, I think, was it a couple? I think 2021. They were a 2 seed and they got beat in the Sweet 16. That team, they focused way too much on living and dying by the three, and I feel like this year they figured out, okay, even the games we're not being able to hit our threes, we can still win.
They
Right.
can go inside. You
Yes.
have 2 guys. You have a 6'9" guard and Noah Clowney. He's 6'8", 6'9" as well. So, like, and then you have these role players who knows their role, and they're just as tall. Like, you can put 5 of their players on the court, and it's hard to defend. You saw it against Arkansas. They made it very hard to score. And as you stated in your bracket, Cooper, Arkansas doesn't shoot the 3-ball well. And that day they could not shoot because they couldn't get inside.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something I said before the show, I know, is you can shoot the three as much as you want, but you need to be able to drive into the basket. I mean, you're not making your threes, go to the basket. And I think some teams still need to go back to that and say, you're not making it, drive.
Pick and roll action.
Right, and James, looking back still at your bracket, I've seen that you had Alabama going all the way, but which we'll get into later. Do you think Alabama has what it takes? I don't want to know who you have winning it all just yet. Okay. But do you think Alabama has what it takes to possibly run the table?
In their region, yes. But as I've seen time and time again, the deeper you get, the tougher it gets. So if you come up against a team like, honestly, they meet up with a Baylor or a San Diego State, these teams are going to bring everything that they have. Like, they're going to use their players. They're going to find a game plan to try to beat this team. You're number 1 overall. So you just got to be prepared and be ready to play.
Right. Well, we're going to, take another short break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the last region. I don't know who has that one.
I don't know.
I think it may
I
be
got an
Easton.
idea.
I think it may be Easton. I think Easton's got that one. But guys, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the East. After that, we're going to be talking about some Final Fours, some championships. You never know what's going to be cooking in the kitchen. But guys, you're watching Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. We'll be right back after this.
At Arkansas State, we want you to go. Go where learning soars, takes flight, and rockets ahead. Go for experiences, internships, and scholarships. We want you to go. Become A-State Maine. Are you ready to go? Go.astate.edu for details.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
ASU-TV News, your local source for news, weather, A-State events, and more. Tune in to ASU-TV News now.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV. And guys, real quick, before we move to the East bracket, James, you were telling us about some breaking news in regarding the NFL.
Man, I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan.
You are terrible for that.
Thank you, Indianapolis Colts, for trading Stephon Gilmore, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Super Bowl, baby, we going.
Oh, God, he's delusional.
We're on the way.
Supposedly it's been leaked. Supposedly the Bengals are going back.
Hey, the script. I read the
Supposedly.
script. I read the script, and it says that the Cowboys once again are going to get blown out in the first round. But regardless of that, we got to talk about the East bracket in the East region, which is hosted and it's going to be told by yours truly.
All right.
So let's go ahead and take a look. And I know I'm going to get clowned for some of the picks I have.
Oh, I could have called that.
Listen, let me get to it, okay? I'll get to it.
Are you kidding me?
Hush your mouth. You got the first game, Purdue versus the playing game, which, I mean, Purdue's been one of the best teams in the country other than Alabama, which is going to be a no-brainer. You got Memphis versus FIU. Now, as you can see, I have Memphis going pretty well.
It's just a lot of blue.
There's a lot of blue. You got Kentucky, Duke.
Listen, Memphis has been on a run, and I'll explain more of that later. Then you got Duke versus Oral Roberts. This isn't going to be another Oral Roberts Cinderella story. I hate it because I love Oral Roberts. You know, I'm a big fan of them, but I just think Duke has a lot to prove this year. Then you got Tennessee versus everybody's favorite Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. Now, as much as I wanted to take the Sun Belt team and say they were going to be the upset of my bracket, I just couldn't manage to do it. So, unfortunately here, I have Tennessee. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me, going on to the next round. The next round, Kentucky versus Providence. Now, here is where my upset's going to happen. I got Providence beating Kentucky for the sole purpose of is that John Calipari has not been the same coach that he's been in years past, and this Kentucky team arguably is the worst Kentucky team he's had while he's been at Kentucky. For that reason, Providence is going to upset him and move on. Now, the next game, the Kansas State Wildcats versus Montana State. Now, Ella Jane's going to like this pick because she's a big fan of Desi Hill.
I like your K-State pick. I like it.
She's a big fan of Desi Seals for reasons we may not never know.
Bye.
But Kansas State, a rock star is back down there. So I think Kansas State's going to have the edge in this one. Desi Seals, he's playing with a lot to prove. He's had a great year so far. So I'm going to be pulling for the former Arkansas State Red Wolf here. Now the next game, the Michigan State Spartans versus the University of Southern California Trojans. See, this game was a toss-up for me. I like both teams. I'm a Grizzlies fan. Michigan State's had a lot of former Grizzlies come through there. But in this game, for some reason, on the planet Earth, I just feel like USC has got the edge in this game. Now, moving on to the last game before we get into Cooper ripping me a new one for having Memphis going as far as they are, you have Marquette versus Vermont. Now, quite frankly, I don't know much about Vermont. I couldn't really find a lot on them. So for that reason, I have Marquette moving on to the next line of games. But guys, looking at this so far, what do you see that you like? What do you don't like? Cooper, you're going to give me crap about Memphis. I already know.
You go last.
Okay.
You go
But
last.
so we're going to
start
start with LJ.
Go ahead, ladies first.
I truly think you do have a lot of blue. I do like your Kansas State pick. I think it's good, but I'm just curious. What makes you think your number 1 seed Purdue, and y'all can say this back to me, your number 1 seed Purdue is going to win the first game and then come in and get beat by Memphis?
Well, if you look back at my bracket, and it's a tale as old as time. Memphis has all the momentum in the world in this region. They're coming off a hot conference championship game, a hot conference tournament, and they have all the momentum in the world. Penny Hardaway, this is going to be the year he has something to say about his team, and he's finally going to say, hey, we may not have been far with a guy like James Wiseman and the talent I brought in before, but this is the year that guys like Kendrick Davis and those other guys are going to go on a scoring breakdown, and I just don't think that Purdue, why they are a good team, yes. I'm not trying to say that they're not a good team. I just think in the tail of March, and like I said, it's a tale of as old as time. When you come into March, the team that has a momentum coming from a conference tournament is usually the team that goes far. Like I said, Purdue is a great team, but they almost lost their conference championship to Penn State. So with that reason, I have Memphis going far. Now, I'm not saying that Memphis is the best team in the tournament. I just think with the momentum they have and the scoring that they are able to score with and the defense they have, they are going to make a far run.
Okay.
And this may be asking you a stupid question, but
I'm used to it.
do you think when teams come in, honestly, every year it's crazy the way it goes. It's crazy to see the teams that do start having their streak and the teams that lose their streak. Do you have enough pride in Memphis for them to keep their streak going, or do you think they're going to fall out of it? If they get down, are they going to fall out of it?
Well, and that's a great question. It's not a stupid question, but it's a great question because in basketball, you can go on an 0-10 run and you can come back just like that. We've seen it plenty of times with the Arkansas State Red Wolves, both men and women. They went on runs. They've had runs on them, and they were able to come back. That's the beauty of the game of basketball. It doesn't matter if you have the best talent in the world or the worst talent in the world. If you are able to go on a run or stop a run, you're going to be able to win ball games, and you're going to be able to have momentum. Now, for the momentum being stopped within the tournament, it's not a far-fetched idea to say that Memphis is going to have their pride, their momentum stopped by a Purdue, or even in the first round. But the problem here is that I'm confident in as much stuff as Penny Hardaway and the Memphis Tigers have gone through in the past 3 years that this is going to be the year that Penny has his guys, that they're all going to be aligned, and they're going to have what it takes to go far in this bracket.
I mean, I get you have a very valid point. But Purdue is just, they're a fundamentally sound team. I've watched them. I haven't watched them much, but when I have watched them, their chemistry's there. They're well coached.
I think they execute very
well. They execute. That's the word I'm looking for. They just execute a lot better. And I've watched Memphis. I've seen they are on a great run. They have Williams, Kendrick Davis, Lawson. But where I feel like where the key thing is going to come in, it's going to come down to execution, and it's going to come down to experience. Even though Williams has it, he's the oldest player in the country. Like, no shade or anything, but he's the oldest player in the country. And it's going to come down to who knows what to do in what moment. And for this Purdue and Memphis game, I have them moving on in the first game as well. But it's going to come down with that Purdue and Memphis game. Who's going to execute better? and who's going to make the right choice at the right time.
Right. And, and I like that you brought up the execution factor because Memphis, while yes, I do have them go far, the biggest problem with inside their game that I have, and the reason why I was kind of timid to make Memphis go as far as they did, is because of the execution. They were notable in the American Athletic Conference Championship. They did almost blow the lead, but they didn't have it as far out as maybe they had wanted it.
Yeah. All right.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
So first off, we're going to look at in the number 2, Marquette. You know who went to Marquette University?
Yep.
Dwayne Wade.
Yes, sir. D. Wade, the GOAT. But Purdue's, I almost called this. Before the show even started, I said, did you have Memphis winning it all? Not even. That's why when it came up, I said that. But I'm not going to rip you a new one too bad. But even if Memphis beats Purdue, they're going to end up playing a red-hot Duke team who has a ton to prove. They ruined Coach K's big, send-off tour, goodbye, retirement tour. They ruined that for them. They're trying to prove we're still a good team without Coach K, and they're on fire right now. But Memphis Purdue's just a better coach team. They're just way better coach. And something to keep in mind, I agree with the Tennessee pick.
I don't.
But Tennessee lost their starting guard to an ACL tear.
See,
you need to keep that in mind. They're down a starting player.
And that too, and I like that you brought that up because I want to just put it to you this way, okay? And I know if this doesn't go the way I'm going to say it, then I'm going to get clowned from you guys, from different people. But real quick, I just don't like the Raging Cajuns. I don't like their brand of basketball. They've almost blown multiple leads to Arkansas State, and Arkansas State arguably was the worst team in the Sun Belt this year. I'm sorry, but they sucked. I've been on here and I've talked good about Terrence Ford and different guys, but they had too many injuries, so they were the worst team. But guys, real quick, we're going to have to take a short break, and when we come back, we may talk more about the East, and then we're going to go into the Final Four and champions. So guys, stick around. You're watching Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV.
At Arkansas State, we want you to go. Go where learning soars, takes flight, and rockets ahead. Go for experiences, internships, and scholarships. We want you to go. Become A-State Maine. Are you ready to go? Go.astate.edu for details.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
ASU-TV News, your local source for news, weather, A-State events, and more. Tune in to ASU-TV News now.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. And guys, we're not going to be talking about the East any longer. We're going to go ahead and move into the main meat of the sandwich.
Main event.
The main event here on Ion Television. My wrestling fans would know that reference. But guys, looking at the big picture inside the bracket, it all comes down to this: the final 4 teams. And I think Ella Jane, she was telling me during the break that she wants to show her final 4.
Okay.
She wants to tell us why she's right and we're wrong and we're stupid and she's the smartest one here. So Ella Jane, what does your final 4 look like?
I mean, by your seeing on the TV right now, but I completely believe in Miami. But like y'all mentioned, I think Kansas could beat them out. And if Norchad's not playing, that's a higher chance. But I think with your attacking guards that you have on there, it's going to be hard to beat an attacking team. I mean, all the nerves are up. You never know what's going to happen.
Right. And then moving on from the Final 4, you had, I do believe, Duke winning it all. Mm-hmm. So what made you shift from the Norchad hype train to the Coach K revenge tour?
Well, kind of like y'all were saying earlier, I really think that they're wanting to show, we're sorry, Coach K. We want to be able to prove something to ourselves and to everybody that's out there, all the fans that are watching us, that we are capable of doing this and not letting you down at the last second.
Right. Now, I mean, you make some great picks. I mean, honestly, a lot of them are similar to myself except for the Duke one because, of course, I had Memphis going far. But part of me wants to say you make great, compelling argument. But the problem is you don't. But Cooper, go ahead. Let's take a look at your Final 4.
Let's go ahead and look at the juice box. You have Baylor taking on Duke and Texas A&M and Kansas. Now, you might be shocked. Why is A&M there? Well, A&M, yeah. Okay, just hear me out.
Go ahead and answer that for us.
I have Duke beating Baylor. That's all I'm going to say, so I can talk about Texas A&M and Kansas. Texas A&M is there due to the sole fact is they got screwed on their seeding. They're better than a 7th seed in my opinion. They, like I said, they were the 2 seed in the SEC tournament. They were the 2nd best team record-wise in the SEC, beating Alabama. You beat Tennessee. You beat Kentucky out. You beat Arkansas. You beat Auburn out of all those seeds. And I feel like people aren't talking about them enough. If they can get past Texas, then there's no reason they shouldn't be in the Final 4. But the Cinderella story of A&M comes in when you have Kansas taking on Duke and Drake. We going back to back. Yeah. I mean, Kansas, I feel like they're just such a great team. They had the experience from last year. I mean, Kansas, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU.
So now we're going to go ahead and shift focus to James's Final 4 and champion picks. And James, you broke my heart. That's all I'm going to say. Mr. Jordan Moore, will you please show James's Final 4 and champion picks?
What's wrong with them?
That's definitely
It's a good bracket. That's a good.
It is, but it's definitely not
It's
something I
his
would
champion. It's his champion.
The reason I chose, because so for my Elite 8, I had Miami and Texas going at each other for the Elite 8, and I was like, who do I want to choose? And I'm like, it was the Norchad thing. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at both of these teams. We know 4 players, 13 points, averaging 13 points. I was like, who? I've just been watching Texas, and I really just like what they have been doing. I just feel like they are going to be the one to just gel and make it, like, to the finals. And honestly, I feel like they're the only team right now who really can just match up well with Alabama.
Do you think they'll be an underdog story?
Who, Texas? Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. UCLA, I just feel they have enough to get all the way to the Final 4, but when they meet up with the Texas or a more physical team, period, they're just gonna.
Well, James, I mean, you make a lot of good points, and I want to talk about my Final 4 real quick before, we have to take another break and everything. But I like your picks. Don't get me wrong. I just hate Texas. I cannot stand the Longhorns. But, you see my Final 4. I had Bama, had Memphis, who played earlier in the year. I had Xavier versus Kansas. I like these matchups for the sole purpose of is Kansas, they're playing well. Xavier, I haven't heard the name Xavier in a basketball tournament in a long, long time.
Yes.
So I think it's time that we're returning to the MAC, Xavier. And then when you're looking at the champion, Easton John, sing it with me. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk.
I'm dead.
You're the only one.
I know. I'm not loved anymore. But guys, real quick, it's been a great time playing this game with you. And if you want to play with us, go ahead to ESPN.com, look for the Men's Tournament Challenge, search the group RWRT-ASU-TV, and the winner gets bragging rights over the ball-headed, beautiful Mr. Sullivan for the entire year.
I hope you are playing for second place,
Exactly.
because I'm coming in first.
No,
The
you're
juice
not.
box.
But guys, real quick, I want to thank you so much for being here. James, Ellie, all of our camera crew, and Lauren Pendleton for being here, taking pictures for us, and all of our crew in the studio, Easton John, Jordan Moore, our great engineers. But guys, for the second annual March Madness tournament here on ASU TV, the Red Wolf Roundtable with Style, we want to say thank you for watching, and we will see you guys after spring break. Stay safe out there, villains.